Okay, junior golfers, parent education. The reason I've put this together is to hopefully benefit the juniors. For me, the number one thing is to always put them first, put the juniors first, do what's best for them. Hopefully, if some parents watch this, there's maybe something that you might learn that might help you to ultimately help them and benefit the juniors. So that's why I've put this together. I'll try not to waffle on too long, hopefully 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes max. So what am I going to cover in this? Oh, there we go. Okay, so what's the goal? What am I trying to achieve within the coaching the juniors? How do I go about achieving this goal? How can parents help to achieve this goal? And misconceptions within junior golf. So let's get straight into it. What's my why? What's my purpose? Why do I do what I do? It's to be a positive influence on juniors so that I can help them to achieve their golfing aspirations and grow as people. That's my why. That's why I do what I do. What's the goal? What am I trying to achieve within the junior coaching? Very simple. I'm trying to help develop lifelong golfers who love golf and improve in the long term. That is the goal. That is what I'm trying to do within the junior program, within the coaching of juniors. The key thing there is the love of the golf, they love golf, and they improve in the long term. So I just want to go in depth on those two a little bit more. So there's a very, very smart man called Dave Collins, who is in charge of the psychology for England Golf, and he's coined this phrase, it depends. So as you can see here, some examples. Some juniors will benefit from the motivation of £1 if they hit the green. Some don't need that motivation. Some will be better with the shoulders to cry on, some better harsh words, some are better using imagery, some are better using talk. It depends. It depends on the junior and what their needs are. Every single junior is different. What's the same for me, what needs to underpin it, is that they do it because they love the game, it's fun, they enjoy it. Now, they may love it for different reasons, but it comes back down to that's what underpins it. They love golf, they love the game, they enjoy it, it's fun. That has to underpin it no matter what their different needs are. So that's the love it part of the goal. Enjoy it, have fun. Then in terms of long-term improvement, so improvement over time. This is a paper from Athletics. Quite interesting. So you can see they looked at a lot of people, and the juniors that were ranked in the top 20 at under 13 level, a very, very small percentage of them were then ranked in the top 20 at senior level. So, and this is athletics, but it's the same in any sport. We'll get onto another example in golf in a second, but ultimately, success in terms of the outcomes at a young age doesn't have a correlation to them having success further down the line. For me, what success is at this early age is its improvement over time. It's them continually getting better and continually learning. In a more golf specific example, we've got the Reed, the Carris, and the McGregor. So the English boys under 14, under 16, and under 18 championships, big competitions. Have a look at this in the red. These are all the winners from 95, 96, and see how many names you recognize. If you have a look, probably maybe Eduardo Molinari down on the right. His brother won the Masters this year, and then Eddie Pepperell, he won the Reed. So there is absolutely golfers that have had a lot of success early, won lots of competitions as a junior, and gone on to have success later on in their career as well. There is a ton of juniors that have done really well, won things, had lots of success, been in county teams, been in England squads, etc., that have gone to have not much success at all, or zero success at his senior level, if you like, further down the line, despite their best efforts. There are juniors who have not won a huge amount, done okay, nothing special growing up, but then have gone on to be superstars, major champions later down the line. So the key thing here is there's just no correlation. Now, don't get me wrong, success at a young age is great. It's brilliant. It's a fantastic achievement for them. As a coach, that's absolutely brilliant. You know, I love that for players I coach to have successes, to have achievements like this, to win competitions, to be doing well. Obviously, as a parent, you always want the best, and you want them to go on and achieve things, and that's great. That's fantastic. But the key thing to understand is this isn't key. This isn't vital, and this isn't a sign for success further down the line. That's the key thing to understand from this. So that's the goal. That's creating golfers that love the game and that improve over time. How do I go about achieving this goal within the coaching? Is taking this person, athlete, golfer approach and adopting that sequence. So it starts with the person. Go back to that quote from Dave Collins, it depends. Every junior is different. They've all got different needs. What I need to do is I need to understand that person, because the more I understand that person, the better of a relationship I have with that person, the more I can then influence them as a player. Just as Judy Murray's saying here, this is a quote from her book. Recently read it, absolutely brilliant autobiography. I'd recommend anybody with children in sport have a read. It's fantastic. As I say, it depends. Everybody's different. So for me, it's a critical mistake if you skip that, if you don't look at that person first. I need to understand that person. I need to have a relationship with that person, because then I can have the biggest influence on them as a player. The athlete, that encompasses obviously their physical attributes, how much a physical athlete they are, but probably the bigger part, the athlete encompasses them as a learner. So if you work on that, or not work on, you understand that person, you can meet their needs, you can help them to learn, or they are a good learner. What you have at the result of at the end of that is you have a golfer that's created. And that for me is the most efficient sequence to take. So understand the person, then the athlete, and as a result of that, you then have a golfer. So that's the sequence. Then in terms of the athletic development, as I said, a big part of this is them being a learner, but it also is their athletic ability. So it's a key critical window when they're young to develop this athleticism, because it's much easier to do it at a younger age. It's as if you have a junior with a good athletic ability, a good athletic base, it's going to be much easier to turn them into a better golfer faster at a later age. It's very, very hard to do it the other way around. And the key thing is this helps with other sports as well. So even if they're not going to stay in golf, they're going to pursue another sport, having that athletic base, that athletic ability will help them in that other sport. A few specific reasons why it can help with golf more so as well is growth spurts. So suddenly their arms, their legs are a little bit longer. It's going to help, if they've got that athletic base to be able to deal with that. Injury, get injured, they might have to change things a little bit. Again, being a good athlete, having that athletic base is going to help. Same with the game might change. Golf's changing all the time. Right now, you've seen a lot of players coming through, hitting the ball a long way. Again, that athletic ability helps with that. The more of an athlete they are, the more they can adapt to those changes. And that is ultimately why in the sessions, spend quite a bit of time, certainly in warm-ups, things like that, games you do without a golf club in their hands. Because ultimately, think about the goal, it's about improving over time. It's helping develop their athletic ability, which is going to help them as a golfer or as a general sports person. As I say, they don't pursue golf at a later date. The key thing is to understand is you only get one chance to get this right, to develop that athletic ability at that young age, where they're in a window where you're able to do that. So that's explaining essentially that athlete part and why some things do happen in the sessions without them having a golf club. This is a big one. So I absolutely love this quote on the left. This is something that I say to the juniors a fair bit is, golf skills, or what impresses me more than golf skills is people. So it's the person that you are, because as this quote says, sport's only around for so long. You're only going to be involved. You're only going to have success in sport for so long. It's more about the person that you are. And I think golf is a fantastic sport, and the group coaching with the juniors is a great way for them to develop life skills that's going to help them, because ultimately, as the title says, the chances of them making it in golf are pretty slim, or in any sport really. So it's brilliant if they're engaging in an activity like golf, like coaching, where it can help them to have life skills further down the line. So things like dealing with adversity, sportsmanship, teamwork, helping others, competitive spirit, good attitudes, value of effort, learning through failure, integrity, humility, behavior, perseverance, and you could probably add a lot more to the list. So for me, it's as much about developing these life skills as it is the golf skills. It's about the person. So I said before, it depends, and every junior is different, but for me, as a general approach, and what works, I think, really well with a lot of juniors is the games-based approach. So kids love playing games. I don't need to tell parents that. I'm sure as parents, you spend enough time trying to drag kids off the Xbox, off the PlayStation, etc. And there's a lot as a golf coach that I can learn from video games because they're extremely good at what they do. What do video games do? What's the goal? What happens when a kid, a child plays a video game? It creates a love for the game. Let's take Fortnite, for example. Most parents have probably heard of that, probably been trying to drag your kids off it. They love playing Fortnite. They enjoy playing it. It's fun for them. And they get better at it. What happens as a result of that? They keep playing the game. That's exactly what video game creators, designers want. They want them to keep playing the game. That's their goal. They love playing the game and they get better at it. What's the goal? What's my goal within the junior coaching? It's exactly the same. So I am on the same mission as video game designers, and video games are very, very good at it. So there's an awful lot I can learn from what a game does, because a video game does, because as a golf coach, I'm essentially on the same mission. So what happens in a video game? Well, the first thing is they're going to learn in an implicit manner. So you can have a junior sat down playing Fortnite for an hour. Let's say they then, I have no idea how Fortnite works, but let's say they get to like a new high score, a new top level after that hour. Well, they've improved at the game to do that. They've learned, they've got better at it. But could they sit down and tell you exactly what they've learned, exactly how they've got better at it? Probably not, because they've just learned through playing the game, and that's learning in an implicit manner. Kids a lot of the time don't like being told what to do. So research has shown that learning in this implicit manner, just playing the game and learning without realizing they're learning, not being stood there told what to do, told how to do it, can lead to more fun and more enjoyment. The autonomy, so they've got choice, what games they want to play. Again, research has shown that autonomy, them having that choice, can lead to more fun, more enjoyment. It's challenging, but it's doable. So it would be no good if they could just blast through Fortnite in an hour. It was dead easy. They didn't need to think about it. Job done. They wouldn't get a sense of mastery doing that. They wouldn't be engaged doing it. So it needs to be challenged for them, but it also needs to be doable. If it's too challenging, they're not going to stick at it. They're just going to, I can't do this. They're going to give up. So again, what video games do, they offer support when it's needed. That makes the challenge doable. So they do cheats, things like that. They make it a challenge, but they make it doable by offering support when it's needed. And they're going to learn through failure. So again, I don't know how Fortnite works. Maybe you get killed in this game. Maybe you lose certain things that you've collected. You lose a life, you drop down a level, something like that. I'm pretty sure if you know there's a kid playing Fortnite for 2-3 hours, they're going to fail a huge amount in that game. And they're then going to learn from those failures in that game. So this is everything that happens in a video game. What happens in a game that I play in the sessions with the juniors in golf is exactly the same. So let's break that down and look at it. Here's a game that I play, putting pool. Juniors absolutely love it. It's basically the golf version of pool. You've got the yellow webbing, which is the pool table. You've got 8 orange balls, 8 yellow balls. I think it's white balls here. You have to pot all 8. You pot them by simply getting the ball in the hole. Once you've potted all 8, you then pot the black. You can't put the ball off the table because that will then be a penalty shot, and you can't hit the opposition's colour either. So to juniors, no matter to 5-year-olds up to 12, 13, 14-year-olds, this is just a fun game that they're playing. That's all it is. And to maybe a lot of adults looking on, it's just a fun game that they're playing. But there is so much more happening in this game underneath the surface. So first of all, autonomy. They've got choice. I can say to them at the start of the session, what game do you want to play? Now, you can have a boiled egg, you can have a scrambled egg, you can have a fried egg, you can have a poached egg, etc. You're still having an egg at the end of the day. So it's perceived choice. And again, that perceived choice leads to more fun, more enjoyment. They're learning, but they're learning implicitly. So what are they learning in this game? Well, they're learning distance control because they can't hit the ball off the table. That'll be a penalty shot. They're all quite short puts, so they're going to have that putter face pointing somewhere towards the hole if it's going to go in. So they're going to learn to control the putter face. They're going to learn decision making. Some balls are closer to the hole than others. Which ones to go for, which not. Maybe start reading the slopes, things like that. But at the end of this game, could they, if I said to them, okay, what have you learned? Would they sit down and say, okay, well, I learned to control the putter face, I learned to control the distance, and I learned a little bit about decision making? They're absolutely not going to be able to sit down and tell you that. But the key thing and the fact is that learning has happened. It's through how it's happened in that implicit manner that they can't explicitly explain how it's happened. But again, that leads to more fun, more enjoyment, because they're not stood there being instructed, being told what to do. They're just playing the game and they're learning in that manner. So that's the key thing to understand. The main thing, yes, they might not be able to explicitly say what they've learned, but the key thing, go back to the goal, they have learned, they have got better. That's the main thing. It's challenging, but it's doable. So again, a lot of them, I make sure that all the games I can doctor them, I can change them to make them slightly easier or to make them slightly harder. So it's a challenge, but it's doable. Again, same as the video games. If it's really easy, then they're going to get bored. They're not going to be engaged. They're not going to get a sense of mastery when they can do it. But again, if it's too much of a challenge, if it's too hard for them, they just can't do it. It's going to have a similar effect. It's going to have an adverse effect where they're not going to want to do it. They're not going to have fun. They're not going to be engaged. So that's where the support when needed comes in. So just as a video game offers the support when needed, I'm going to, for the most part, the game is the teacher. But as a coach, I'm not just going to stand there and do nothing. If I think there's too much challenge, I'm going to step in and I'm going to offer the support that's going to make that challenge doable. The key is, and the absolute key is when you step in, because what you don't want to prevent, and the thing that's underlined here, is the learning through failure. So what could essentially happen in this game is I could say to a junior before they've even hit a putt, okay, you can't hit the ball off the table. That'll be a penalty shot. So don't hit it too hard. But all I'm doing then is, all that is words. It's information. It means nothing to them. They have to fail. They have to experience it. As this quote says from Einstein, I love this, learning is experience. Everything else is just information. They're going to hit it off the table. They're going to fail, then they're going to incur a penalty shot. They've then experienced that. So they've learned. So they know next time, okay, I don't need to hit it that hard. I'm going to control my distance a little bit better. They might hit a few putts to the right. Okay, that's how they're going to learn. I need to point the putter face a little bit more to the left. The key thing there is not stepping in too soon, letting that failure happen. Because if you step in too soon, you're not going to let that failure happen. They're not going to experience, and they're not ultimately going to learn. So that's a really key part. And again, it's the support when needed. So it's common sense really. Yes, let them fail, but I'm not going to let them hit shot after shot after shot off the table and incur a penalty every time. Okay, I can see support's needed, so I'm going to step in so that challenge is doable, but not stepping in too soon. So that's the games-based approach. That's why I think games are fantastic. I don't do it in its entirety. It's not just games, and absolutely nothing else. There are other factors involved, but it's largely game-based approach. And hopefully, in explaining this, you can see why I do the games and why I feel it's good, and why ultimately I feel this games-based approach helps facilitate the goal. Kids that love juniors that love the game and they're improving over time, I feel like games can provide this. Okay, on to more of the parent side of things. I'm trying not to waffle. Hopefully I'm not. I'm timing myself. Ooh, 18 minutes. Okay, not too far to go. Stay with me. So in terms of the parents, that's me explaining what I do, how I go about trying to achieve the goal within the coaching, and how can you as parents help with that. So here's something, think about this honestly. How much emphasis as a parent in terms of your actions and your words are put towards the juniors in their golf, in terms of them performing well, in terms of them learning, and in terms of them having fun and enjoyment. Think about your actions, think about your words, think about how much of it, what you do to the junior is emphasized on the performance, on the learning, and on the fun and on the enjoyment. So if I think about that as a percentage, how much is put on each part in terms of your actions and your words. So for me, in my experience, and maybe other coaches would say something different, but I think it should be 45% on the learning and the fun and enjoyment, and 10% on the performance. Now, juniors are always, for the most part, always going to want to play well, always going to want to perform. That's brilliant. That's fantastic. That's something you can't teach. You either have that or you don't, and that's great if they have that. As a coach, myself, and as a parent, I believe the job is to be clear on the goal, golfers who love the game and improve in the long term, and help to facilitate that. Now, don't get me wrong. As I said before, as a coach, I absolutely want them to go out and achieve things as a junior, because that's going to be fantastic for them. It's going to be a great achievement. Again, my biggest challenge is I'm not a parent, so I don't know the things that parents feel, but I can only imagine most parents, I know my parents do, only want the best for their children, want them to go out and to achieve and ultimately to perform. And that's fine. That's completely normal as a parent. But the key thing is, how do you create that performance? That's the key thing. And the key thing, going back to like we talked about in the first few slides, is if they're not going out and performing really well and winning loads of things, that's no indicator to success further down the line. So here's the danger, and unfortunately I've seen this all too often, in having too much of the words, the actions, emphasized on the performance. Because what it does is it inadvertently puts pressure on them to perform. Inadvertently. So they're going out there, and what it creates is it creates a fear of failure. That puts pressure, added pressure on them to perform, which makes it harder to perform. And it becomes no fun anymore. They stop playing golf. Remember the goal. The goal is to have a love of the game, I keep saying it over and over, and long-term improvement. So what happens from this is too much emphasis on the words, the actions, on that performance. It creates an unsafe environment. It's an environment that's unsafe, where failing, playing bad, failing at a game, even on the smallest scale, in a game, in a session, not doing well in that game, it's not okay to do that. They have to perform at all costs. That for me, that's just a dangerous area to go. You want it to be a safe environment where failure is okay. So how do you make sure you create that? Well, you have the 45% of your actions and your words focused on the learning, the other 45 on the fun and the enjoyment. So what you're doing there is you're simply focusing on the process. If you focus on that process, the results can then take care of themselves. So if you focus the majority of your actions and your words, and me as a coach as well, we're almost a team here, on the fun and the enjoyment, on them learning, what happens as a result of that is that's going to give them the best chance of going out and performing. So absolutely, yes, want them to do well, want them to perform, but go about that in the right way. What you've done then is they're focusing on the process, and it's giving them the best chance. It's creating a safe environment where if they don't play bad, if they play bad, if they don't do well, if they fail at a game, have a terrible score on the golf course, that's completely okay, because that failure is a chance for them to learn, and you're focusing on the process. So that's a really key thing that I think is important, is to have that 45% on each, on the fun, on the learning. Emphasis on that creates a safe environment. That safe environment takes the pressure off, gives them the biggest chance of actually going out and performing. How can you do that then? What things can you say? What can you praise to help create that safe environment, to focus on the process of the learning and the fun, the enjoyment, the love of the game? Provide challenge. I said that about the games. It can't be too easy for them. They need the challenge because they need to fail. Let that failure happen. Do not step in too soon. A lot of the time when I see, stepping in too soon, it's, why are you stepping in? Are you stepping in because you want them to learn? Well, if you want them to learn, remember they have to fail a little bit to learn. So often it's the stepping in because you want them to perform. There's nothing wrong with wanting to perform, but remember the best the best practice, what for me is best practice to perform, is not focusing on that performance, focusing on the process, focusing on the learning. So if they're learning, they're going to fail, which means you're not going to step in too soon, which is ultimately going to lead to the performance. Hopefully I haven't completely gone off on a tangent and lost people there. Praise the controllables. So effort, attitude, perseverance, that is 100% in their control. Even if that's at all levels, a 5-year-old playing a game in a session, a 14-year-old playing in the English Girls Under 18 Championships. That's in their control. So they're in control of the effort, the attitude, the perseverance they put in. They're not in control of how good their golf shots are. They're in control of these things here. So praise the things that they can control. Ask questions. So one really key question, I think, and this is a key question because it can open up lots of other questions, is there anything you could have done different? So if they're playing a game, if they're out playing on the golf course, do you think there's anything you could have done different? Well, maybe I could have done this different. Okay, if you'd done that different, what would have happened? What options would that have given you? Then if you did that, what would have happened from that? And how would that made you feel? And what would have been the result of that? So just through asking that one questions, that can then take you down a path of lots of other questions that's going to help facilitate that learning. Is there anything you could have done different? And this is why it's underlined. This is a big one for me. Did you do the best you could with what you had? So that's, as a coach, I know that's all I can ever ask for, because again, that's a controllable. They might play a game, they might play on the golf course, they might be doing just having a bad day, might be tired, something might happen at school. You don't know, because there's so many different variables, but all you can ever ask them to do is they do the best with what they have. And again, this is focusing on the process. This is focusing on what they can control. It's taking the pressure off. It's giving them the freedom to actually go out and to be able to get that performance and do the best they can. So for me, all I'm ever going to ask a junior is, did you do the best you could with what you had? Yes, I did. Brilliant. Well done. That's success. You've performed. You've done well, because you can't do any more than that. That's everything that's in your control. Support when required. So again, just the common sense, not stepping in too soon, but not letting them just fail over and over and over. Remember, it needs to be challenging but doable. Reinforce the improvement in the learning journey. And then another big one, always try to refer back to, and I do this myself. Nothing I'm saying here isn't anything that I'm always constantly trying to do, is ask yourself, are your actions and your words in line with the goal? To create a love of the goal, a love of the game, and golfers that improve in the long term. Are you focusing 10% towards that performance? Are you focusing on the process and letting that performance happen, creating that safe environment? So that's something to always go back to. Try to always ask yourself that. I know I'm always doing that myself as a coach. Time wheel. Last slide. Stay with me. 27 minutes. Okay, I think I said 20 at the start. I might make it in 30. Myths. Try not to get too carried away here, because this is things I'm really passionate about. And now in saying this, I often struggle to say it to actually people in person, because I don't want to make people feel silly. But ultimately, I don't want to be patronizing and feel like I'm belittling people. But for me, again, as I said at the start, it's about what's best for the juniors. It's about putting them first. And I just absolutely care about them. I care about their golf. And that's why, for me, these things are important, because they're going to do more harm than good. So keep your head down, keep your head still. That is just an absolute myth. It's a load of nonsense. If you filmed a junior every time they hit a bad shot, I absolutely guarantee every single time, bar none, they were looking at the ball. It's a complete misconception. Remember, we're developing athletes. So imagine from your chest down is frozen. You can't move it. If you're trying to keep your head still and you're trying to stay looking at the ball, that's what it does. It prevents your body from moving, which prevents them from developing an athletic motion. So it robs them of all ability to develop athleticism within their golf swing. It's a myth. If they're mishitting it, it's never from lifting the head. And all the best golfers in the world, their head moves. It moves from side to side. It moves up and down. It tilts left and right. So absolutely, let that head do what it wants to do. I walk up and down the range, and when I hear this, it just being told to a junior, it's like nails down a chalkboard to myself. I'm very passionate about the keeping the head still, keeping your head down. Don't do it. Keep your feet still. Again, remember, we're developing athletes. Speed is a skill. So if speed wasn't a skill and it was easy, most of the golfers that are taught generally, or most amateur male golfers, for argument's sake, would swing the club over 100 miles an hour with driver. Very, very, very few do, because speed is hard. It's a skill to swing the club fast. Juniors, remember, are prime. They're at a young age. They're at a window where they can develop that speed. They can develop that athleticism. You only get one chance to get it right. It's much easier to develop that at that younger age. Let them move their feet. Remember the goal. It's about improvement over the time. They can hit great shots moving their feet. Absolutely. They're probably having fun doing it, and they're developing speed. So you don't have to keep their feet still. Or if they're trying to keep their feet still, that's going to slow them down. It's going to rob them of developing that speed, developing that athleticism. Slow down, same thing really. I would only ever tell a junior to slow down if they're hitting the ball too far. I'm yet to know of a junior on the planet that hits the ball too far and needs to slow down. So again, think about the goal, long-term improvement, developing athleticism. Speed is a skill. If they're trying to hit it really, really hard, they're probably having fun, they're probably enjoying themselves, and they're developing speed. Now, yes, if they're going absolutely extreme with this, maybe that's time to step in. But again, remember, they're developing speed if they're swinging the club fast. Line your feet, hips, shoulders up square, so being square to the ball. That's something, again, that's told a lot. It's a myth, it's a misconception. A very simple concept to think about. If you were hammering a nail, how would you do it? Would you pick up the hammer and would you go, okay, hang on there, I'm just going to make sure my feet are in the right position, my hips are right in position, my shoulders are in the right position. Okay, good, I'm in the right position, now I'm ready to hammer this nail. I've never known anybody that hammers a nail that way. If I had a build around and he was doing it, I'd probably get rid of him pretty quick. You pick up the nail, or you pick up the hammer, and your body moves into a position that supports the way you want to move the hammer to hit that nail flush. It's the same as golf. It's aligning force. It's getting the hammer to move in a way that's going to hit the nail flush. It's going to drive it straight into the wood. What are we trying to do with a golf club? We're trying to align force. We're trying to get the force of the club aligned, so as it comes into the ball, it's relatively straight and the club face is square. Your body just needs, the juniors are learning machines. They will adapt. They will put their body, as long as that task is clear, into a position that supports that. There's way too many good, very, very good golfers setting up with their feet, hips, shoulders not square. They're setting up in a way that they feel is appropriate for them to complete the task. Again, I can hit shots stood on my left foot only. So can lots of other golfers. So can lots of junior golfers. Entry-level junior golfers can do that. So if they can do it and hit straight shots stood on one foot on your left foot only, the feet, hips, and shoulders don't come into it. So it's just incorrect that they have to have them square. Again, it's a myth. Sorry, I need to cut short. I'm ranting a bit. I'm passionate about these myths. Left arm straight. Again, Jordan Spieth, Lee Westwood. There's too many good golfers that have a left arm that's not straight to say you have to do that. The correct grip. Look at the top 100 golfers in the world. They all grip the club slightly different because there is no correct grip. Again, there's a grip. Think about the hammer. You'd hold it in a way that you feel is most appropriate to complete the task. You know, juniors are very, very young. They're going to hold the club in a way for them that feels appropriate just to create speed, really. So there's no right or wrong grip. Their grip will change through time as they get stronger, as they get bigger, things like that. Just something to bear in mind, that there ultimately isn't a correct grip. There's a grip that's appropriate for them to complete the task. Don't look for a solution without a problem. So often, if you're trying to change something within a swing, it's just something that visually doesn't look right. But this is the absolute classic. Go to Jim Furyk and tell him, don't do that because it doesn't look right. And he'll go, but I've got a private jet through doing something that doesn't look right. So if Jim Furyk had been told to stop doing those things, maybe he wouldn't have that private jet right now. So the key thing is that you've got to understand the problem before looking for the solution. So something that doesn't look right is just a solution, but it might not be related to what the actual problem is with the shots that they're hitting. So that's often the case with just doing something that visually doesn't maybe look right, but it might not be associated with the problem. So you've got to understand what the problem is first, and then look for a solution. But kind of tied in with that for me, and again, it depends. So there absolutely are juniors that can benefit from technical change at a young age, under the age of 12 and 13, absolutely, because it depends. But for me, and in my experience as a general rule, juniors are really going to struggle to be able to make technical change through direct instruction until they're at that age. I just think they're just not in a place where they can really deal with it. They can't take it all on, and they're just not in a place where they're able to do that. As a general, like I say, it depends. Some can, but in my experience, as I say, a lot struggle to do that. And you'd be amazed, again, kids are learning machines. If they're clear on the task, I've seen, and it's amazing, I love to see it, juniors, they're just techniques, their swings develop just again through playing the games, through being clear on the task. Kids, juniors are learning machines. That will happen. The technique will change just through being clear on the task. They're learning machines when the time is right, and maybe if it needs to happen when they're slightly older, that's when you can maybe attack some direct technical change. So the last thing to say on all this is, well, you may be saying, well, if all these things are just a myth and aren't important, what causes them to hit the bad shots, to miss-hit it, to have air shots? Golf is hard. That's why, and that's something key to remember. They're swinging the club at 60 plus miles an hour through 20 feet of travel, trying to hit a sweet spot the size of a 5p pence, 4 feet away from their body, all taking around 20 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds. So think about it that way. Now, think about the skill involved in golf. And when juniors, and especially going through growth spurts, things like that, if they're a bit tired, golf is hard. So that's something just to remember, and that is why they're going to miss shots, they're going to hit bad shots when they're learning. The very last thing here, this just kind of sums everything up nicely. I think I've just creeped into 35 minutes. 36. Give children the right to make their own decisions, to make mistakes, to experience, to learn, allow them to find their way, coupled with expert guidance and sorted factual feedback. Picture on the left, these have all sort of made it, if you like, in golf. They're all doing it their way. There's no one way, there's no one correct way to do it. There's doing what is right for you. Okay, so thank you everybody for listening. Hopefully those that, hopefully some of you have managed to take the time to listen to it. Ultimately, like I say, the goal in doing this is that it's going to benefit juniors. Please, 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 if you have any questions on any of this, I will honestly be absolutely made up if you get in touch and you want to ask me questions about any of this, you want to discuss this further, because as I say, hopefully it's just going to lead to benefiting the juniors. If you want to ask me any questions, if you want to challenge me on anything, if you don't agree with any of this, brilliant, great, let's have a discussion about it. I'm absolutely open to that. So anything at all, anything to do with this, please, 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 next time you see me, just have a chat with me about it. I'd love it if you do. If you're not going to see me, get in touch, give me a call, give me a text, give me an email, whatever. We can absolutely talk about it. Okay? So thanks again for listening, and I'll see you all soon.